Bob Kay. My company, Biker Pros, is in charge of running the Custom Bike Show. What we have here today is the United States Championship. It's the culmination of 12 shows that have been running across country. One of our new and exciting classes is the Modified Harley class. In this particular class, you have to maintain a stock configuration Harley-Davidson frame and stock Harley engine cases. Now, we are sponsored by Harley-Davidson, and normally they provide us with some nice prizes, a race tuner, Harley-Davidson luggage, and the International Motorcycle Shows also puts up $3,000 for first place. But that's for our normal shows. This particular show, like I said, is the United States Championship. So the first place winner will get $6,000. And I have one of the contestants. This is Jeff from the Old Glory Speed Shop. But also Harley-Davidson has stepped up, and they are contributing a new 120 cubic inch Screaming Eagle engine. So we're going to talk a little bit about the value of this class, and Jeff has a pretty unique model, a way of doing business. This particular class is kind of designed to bridge the gap between stock motorcycles and the freestyle motorcycles that have no limits to them. There's a lower cost of entry because you can use a stock Harley-Davidson frame, and it doesn't take it, you don't have to cut a frame or manufacture your own frame, and they already have the mechanicals in place. Now, what Jeff has come up with, he came back from England. He's going to talk about that a little bit. He works with the Old Glory Harley shop. Where is that, Jeff? In DC? In Laurel, Maryland. And what he does is he does some specialized custom work for them. So he will actually meet with some of their customers, do a little presentation on what type of products and skill set he has available to customize their bike. But they are made particularly for this modified Harley class. So I'm going to have Jeff talk to you, and this is a way, again, that you can get in and compete on a world-class level and win yourself $3,000 to $6,000 and maybe a spare 120-inch motor. Now, that wouldn't be a bad thing to have in the barn. So let's talk to Jeff, and I'll have him tell you a little bit about his history and what he does in particular with Old Glory Harley-Davidson. Thank you, Jeff.
How you doing today? How you guys doing today? One more time? There you go. All right, well, about a year ago, I came back from England. I worked out in a Harley-Davidson dealership out there. It was a pretty progressive dealership. They, they had pretty open-minded about customization of bikes and things like that. They went on to actually win the AMD last year, first place for stock modified bikes. Took a little bit of their ideas, brought it home here to the United States. Found myself in a Harley-Davidson dealership in Laurel, Maryland, and the owner, Steve Skelly, was really open-minded. Could see the same vision and see how I was going to try to help put it together for him. So he let me open up the speed shop. Thus, Old Glory Speed Shop was born. It allows us to customize bikes on a higher level, not necessarily leaving Harley-Davidson out, but it allows us to enhance what they've already started and give guys an outlet to make their dreams and goals come true. Using such products out of Drag Specialties, building relationships with companies like Arlen Ness, and getting feedback from those guys, so we were able to put together some pretty good bikes and show them here at the shows.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jeff's entry. It is the first modified Harley as you come in, if you want to look at it later. And there are ways that you can work with a stock Harley-Davidson frame and still come up with a custom bike. So what Jeff has, he has a bagger. Now, you can't cut the frame to rake it, but you can use rake trees, and he has a very unique setup there. And by raking the trees out, that will allow you to use a larger front wheel. I know you can use a 23-inch. You may even be able to get a 26-inch. So, Jeff, why don't you just talk about the front end a little bit and what you've done and how those rake trees work.
All right, what I have is an Arlen Ness Radical Rake Triple Tree kit. The bike was grossly inspired by Arlen Ness and the guys over there and some of their styles, so I used a lot of their product. First, it's a 23-inch wheel that I put on wrapped up in Avons, and then we used like I said, the Radical Rake Triple Tree kit, so it brings it out to roughly about 45 degrees of rake. It's pretty much a bolt-on application. You have to have some powder coating or chroming, whichever way you go with it. It's pretty simple to do. It's not a huge feat. Most mechanics can tackle something like that are any good.
So what this does, this takes care of your front end. Kicking that out allows you to use the larger wheel, which is very competitive now in competition. But also moving to the back, I know you've done something with the tank and what I call bag draggers these days, the low stretched out saddlebags for that low look with the wide fender. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you had to do in terms of putting those wide fenders and those longer bags on?
Again, the bags and the fenders are pretty much a bolt-on application. Did you need to do a little bit of cutting on the rear fender in order to get it to fit properly? You know, as all builds, you build the bike first, then you take it apart, paint it, build it, and add your graphics and paint it afterwards. But again, it was fairly simple. You know, it's got using this as a platform to build off of was pretty good, and what you get from those guys is great, because if you have any problems or you need to know anything, it's simple to call them up and get answers from them.
Well, and that Jeff brings up a very important point here. Most of the builders here will be in and out over the course of the weekend, and they are friendly and they're willing to talk to you about any projects that you may have. But when you buy products from like Arlen Ness and Donnie Smith and Dave Perowitz, you can always call these guys up and ask about your particular application. You know, and it's nice to have somebody like Jeff that has the experience, but not everybody can afford to have a bike built. And what we're trying to show you that with these bolt-on applications, you can come up with a very unique custom bike. Of course, paint is always important, but it's not, you want to have a rideable, in the modified Harley class, you do want it to be rideable. It's something that you can use, and that's also the value of this modified Harley class. So when you're looking at your project, what you should do is spend a lot of time online. Now, Jeff has spent time going to different shows, working with different builders, and he's created this knowledge base. But you can also get that, unlike when I started building 40 years ago, they didn't have the internet out there. So if you go to the internet, you can find a lot of these things and learn about rake and trail, because you do want your bike to handle properly. You're throwing in the wrong combination of wheels or the wrong sizes that can affect it, but you don't have to learn by the hard way of trial and error. You can talk to guys like Jeff and Arlen and Donnie, and they're more than willing to help. So Jeff, well, what did you do to kind of determine what the best approach was for handling on this bike?
Basically, I just had a bit of a vision, something that I wanted to see built, look for the appropriate kit that's out there that I can bolt on and make into what I'm looking for. You know, on top of that, I did a bit of research and I checked out and asked questions from you know, people like Zach Ness and guys that have ridden bikes like that to find out how it's going to handle, so I can give the bike a bit of practicality. And you know, my painter and I sat down and talked about what would be the best colors to bring out and enhance the product. So you know, it's just a bit of research, and you kind of have a vision of what you want to see built, and then, you know, jump in with both feet and go for it.
Now, the bike we've just been talking about is a bagger, and they're very popular these days, and I would have never dreamed in a million years baggers would have been so popular in the custom world, but you're kind of seeing them, and there's so much landscape on a bagger, so you have tons of things that you can work with. But the bike that Jeff referred to that won the AMD Modified Championship last year was actually a bobber. And that's the whole other extreme. Very simple, taking parts off, no front fender. And the Harley-Davidson Softail is an excellent platform for building one of these bobbers. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what went on with that world-winning bike that you had last year.
Well, the shop that I worked with last year that won actually didn't have a whole lot of hands-on experience with that particular bike, because it was over the course of the year that I was here that they started building it. But you know, those guys are pretty smart, and they can get a vision, and like I said, you kind of try to find something that's going to give you what you're looking for. Sometimes you need to shape your own fender. You know, once again, dig in with both feet and just go for it. You know, those guys have a lot of talent. They have good vision. Steve over there can see, you know, see what he's looking for, and he has a talent to make it happen. It's just it's out of sure wheel that any of the bikes are really built. You kind of don't take no for an answer. When things don't want to fit, you got to make them fit, or find somebody who's got a product that will do what you want it to do.
Now, another advantage to the modified Harley class is you can basically avoid the mock-up step. Now, if you're building a ground-up bike, What you normally have to do is really put this bike together before you apply any type of paint or metal finishes. Myself, I like to get the wiring in place, get the bike all done, the wheels, make sure your engine, transmission, exhaust is all in place, because if you're going to add any tabs or any specialty items like that, you want to do that and get that stuff welded up before you actually build the bike. Now, starting with a stock platform, many times you don't even have to disassemble the engine. You might want to change the front end or the rear end components, or go to some different wheels. But again, by not being able to avoid that mock-up stage, that's probably hundreds of hours that you can actually avoid in starting from that aspect. So what you can do, what can you do in the modified Harley class, and what are some of the more popular trends? Well, we already talked about the rake trees. In the bagger, Ness has that nice rake kit that kind of still sets up for the proper rake and trail, so the bike is a good handler. They have just plain rake trees too. A lot of the bobbers will run 4 or 5 degree trees and actually enhances your high-speed stability. So that takes care of the front end. On the back of the bike, we really allow you to do kind of whatever you want. You can go to a wide tire kit, you can change your swing arm. We looked at the bags that Jeff has done on his with having the longer lower bags, having the wider fender section. So you have a lot of latitude with this modified Harley class and a much lower cost of entry to get into the fact of custom building. Now, before we let Jeff go, I'll let you know we're going to bring up Joe DiStefano, and we're going to talk a little bit about the International Motorcycle Bike Builders Association and also the museum in Sturgis. So, Jeff, is there anything else you can share with these people about building for the modified Harley class before we close out today?
Yeah, I just think basically that, you know, doing your homework is definitely a big part of it, just to make sure you got all the parts you need, make sure it's all going to fit properly. Building a good relationship with your painter helps out a lot, because those guys are a wealth of information. You know, my man Tim over at the World of Color is awesome, and we talk a lot about what kind of paint, what colors and things, what kind of graphics, how to tackle it and make sure it's right. Any input you can get, you know, guys like yourself, just sitting down talking to you and getting ideas from people who know and been there before, you know, keeping an open mind, going for what you want out of life, and, you know, making dreams happen, and that's what it's really all about.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. And the one thing that Jeff did mention, that if you're going to do this, you really do have to be dedicated. If you just have a fender or something that doesn't fit right, don't be afraid to start all over again and rework that and get it right. If you get frustrated easily, you might want to look to some other hobby besides custom bike building. But if you can get into it and you really enjoy it, I can't tell you how many nights I've spent at 3 o'clock in the morning out in the barn, just can't sleep. I get some idea I want to add to this bike and put that together. And it's just been a wonderful experience, and dealing with guys like Jeff and the whole Bike Builder Network will really be enriching. So what I'd like to do now is thank Jeff. We really appreciate it.